Hello folks, this is video number 12 in the playlist which deals with 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA generative shape design application. The title or the item that I'm going to be discussing is Extremum Polar. And when you go to the generative shape design in 3DEXPERIENCE CATIA, you see the menu bar that you see down, you see up there at the bottom of the screen. And if you click on the wireframe, in the wireframe, there is this point icon, and if you expand it, you see, of course, you see point. I've done several videos on this. I've done videos on these 2 points and plane repetition and extreme. The one that you want to do it in this video is extremum polar, and when you click on it, this dialog box opens up, and there's going to be several things that have to be selected. For example, curve in a plane. This deals with a planar curve, by the way. Notice it says planar curve. You need this planar curve and the support in which it lies. And what that means is that, for example, that planar curve uh, uh, that planar lies in the xy plane or xz plane or yz plane. Notice that it can be a 3D curve, but it has to be lying in a support in a plane. And then you're going to select an origin and a reference direction. Okay? And we're going to do that through several examples. All right. Okay, let me go to generative shape design, create a part file. On the YZ plane, I will sketch a spline, and let me, dimensions and things like that don't matter. Just an arbitrary spline that I'm going to draw it like that, and exit. And in the same plane, not same sketch, but in the same plane, YZ plane, I will draw a line. For example, something like this, and exit. Okay, so notice that these two curves, that's that spline and the y and the line are in the same YZ plane. Good. Now we're going to go to wireframe, and over here you select the extreme polar. You click on it. Notice that there is a pull down menu here. We'll worry about that in a minute. First of all, the contour is that curve. The support is the YZ plane that I use to draw that curve in it. The origin, I'm going to select this point. Of course, later on, I'm going to do the other one, but right now I'm going to select this endpoint. Notice that what it did, it drew a line for me from here to here, and it says this is the minimum distance, minimum radius. That means minimum distance, and the value of it is 47.2 millimeter. If I use the pull down menu to find the maximum radius, it finds the place where it's farthest away from that, and that's this point. And it says the distance is 327 millimeter. Okay. Now, what if I want angle? So minimum angle. Okay, minimum angle. Notice that still something missing here because I have not select. When you're asked for minimum angle, you have to select the direction, angle between what and what. So I go there, select this, and select that line. That's the only thing that I can select. Okay. And it says that the minimum angle is 45 degrees. And when you think about it, what that means is that, first of all, find out where it is right there. That's the point. This angle is approximately 45 degrees. If I say, give me the maximum angle, the maximum angle is right here. You can see that. You drew that line over there, and it gives me 125 degrees. That means this angle is 125 degrees. This angle is 125 degrees. Incidentally, if I say okay, what it does, it creates a point there. Okay. Now let's try another one. Let's try another one. So, for example, again, extremum polar. I'm going to use the minimum angle again. See why I'm doing that. Minimum angle. This is the curve. The support is the YZ plane. The origin is this point, and the direction is this. The reason I did that is that notice that it gave me the same thing that I had a minute ago. When I close it, it gives me the point which has this smallest angle, which was 45 degrees. Okay, now let me go ahead and delete these, delete this, and delete that, and delete my sketch, the second sketch, the line, delete. Okay, because I want to go draw the line, but in a different plane. For example, let me draw it in the YZ plane. On the YZ plane, I will sketch a line that on purpose, I'm not going to make sure that it's not going to be on the vertical axis. I'm just going to draw it like this. Notice that there is a different exit, exit. Notice what happens is that this spline is in the YZ plane, no problem. But this line that I drew is not in the YZ plane. Actually, it was in the, I believe, XY plane, but that end of it is not touching the YZ plane. So let's try to do the same thing. Okay, turn this around. Okay, extremum polar. Let's find the radius first. So again, the curve is there. The support is the YZ plane. The origin is there. It says no good because this point has to be in the YZ plane where the curve is. Otherwise, you get that message. So we say, okay, let's go back and make sure that this point is actually in the YZ plane. For example, let me go back to that sketch. And I say this point control that line. We're going to make them coincident. There are different ways of doing it. For example, depending on what you know, here's the constraint defined in a dialog box, and you can make it coincidence. There are other ways of doing it. Exit, exit. Now let's try. Now notice that here, that endpoint of the line is actually in the same plane that the spline is located. So once again, extremum polar, this curve, the YZ plane, where that curve lies. The origin is this point. We got an error message before, but now it gives it to us right there. See that? Let me turn this thing around. Having a hard time here. It drew the line for me right there. There's the line. And that distance is 10.3 or 30.874. What if I want the maximum? Maximum distance? Maximum radius? It gives us that distance all the way to the top point, and the value is 347. Now, can I do angles? Can I do angles? For example, can I do minimum angle? The only thing is that it wants a direction. Remember, it wants a direction. I haven't picked a direction, so direction is that line. Yeah, so it tells me that angle and the value of it 168. So it's kind of hard to see it here, but anyway, it is probably this angle, 168, okay? And if I say give me the maximum angle, it gives me a different point, which is way up there, and the maximum angle seems to be negative 127, okay? Remember, if you add 360 to it, it's going to be bigger than what we had before. Yeah, that's good. That's pretty much it. The only other thing that I have to do that this sketch must be a straight line if you want the angle. If you don't want the straight line, no problem. So for example, I can delete that. Sorry, what I meant was that if you want the angle, that has to be straight. It has to be a straight line. Otherwise, let's draw another spline. For example, oh yeah, another spline. Of course, the endpoint must be coincident with that. Otherwise, it says, I can't find the radius for you. Exit. Fine. Okay. Now, let's do the extremum polar. This was my original curve. It was in the YZ plane. Let me do something here. I guess I have to delete this because it was complaining. It was giving me a message, but let's do it now. So let's go ahead, extremum polar. This is my original curve in the YZ plane. This is my origin. It give me minimum distance, and of course you can get maximum distance, no problem, right there. But if I try to do minimum angle or maximum angle, it won't let me do that. Notice that the preview is dim. It won't give me an angle. Okay? So this must be a straight line if you want both the angle and the radius. That's pretty much it, guys. I think we have covered everything in videos essentially 1 through 12 or maybe 2 through 12. We have covered these four with different possibilities for some of the items. Okay. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to line, and there's quite a few things we have to do with line. Good luck.